Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, want to seek the blessings of Radha Mata, Radha Shamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Nrsimhadev, Bhagavan, Jagannath, Baladeshwar, Gaunitai, Tulsimani, Haridas Thakur, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So, 11th Canto, continuing on, chapter 8, the story of Pingala. So, yesterday we were talking about the different spiritual masters that the Avadut Brahman has. So we did 4. So let's see what today is in store for us. The Avadut Brahman explains to Nimi Maharaj the instructions. Actually, it was Yadu, Maharaj Yadu. The instructions he had received from 9 further gurus, beginning with the Python. So the number 9, is that right? Number 9? Let's have a quick look. Just want to double check how many gurus we've gone through. So chapter 7. 7, 8, 9. So this is the 9th one. Yeah. Okay. Good. Python. An intelligent person should cultivate a mentality of detachment and should maintain his body by accepting whatever comes of its own accord or is easily obtained. Sometimes we really over-endeavor. And when we do over-endeavor, maybe it's not meant to be. So we just have to bear in mind, over-endeavor, not a good idea. An intelligent person does not endeavor to obtain material happiness, knowing that it will come of its own accord, just as unhappiness comes. So nobody asks for unhappiness, but guess what? It comes. In this way, he should remain always engaged in the worship of the Supreme Lord. Even if no food is available, the person who wants to engage in the Lord's worship should not beg, but understand this to be the arrangement of providence, thinking, whatever enjoyment is destined for me will automatically come, and thus I should not uselessly waste the remaining duration of my life in worrying about such things. If he does not get any food, he should simply remain lying like a python and patiently fix his mind in meditation upon the Supreme Lord. Of course, that's very difficult to do. If one is hungry, it sometimes becomes very difficult to do anything. But this is just giving us an idea that don't worry too much about basic necessities. They will come. The Lord provides the basic necessities for the little ant and the gigantic elephant. So who's in need, Okay, 10th Guru, the ocean. The mind of the devoted, realized sage is clear and grave, just like the still ocean waters. The ocean does not overflow during the rainy season when all the flooded rivers discharge their waters into it, nor does it dry up during the hot season when the rivers fail to supply it. So this ocean is steady, no matter what the condition is. Similarly, the sage does not become elated when he achieves desirable things, nor does he become distressed in their absence. So then we're looking at moth. A foolish person with no discrimination is immediately aroused at the sight of a lusty woman, beautifully decorated with golden ornaments, fine clothing, and other cosmetic features. Being eager for sense gratification, such a fool loses all intelligence and is destroyed, just like the moth who rushes into a blazing fire. So the moth will see the fire, not knowing that this is dangerous, and he will rush towards it. Similarly, a lusty person will do the same. Lust can really be very disastrous for the living entity. So Now the bees, there are two kinds of bees. There's the bumblebee. The instruction learned from the bumblebee is that a sage should collect only small amounts of food from many different households, and thus day after day practice the occupation of madhukari for maintaining his existence. This is applicable for a renunciate, a sage, a sannyasi. A sage should also collect the essential truths from all scriptures, be they great or insignificant. And then there's the honeybee. The instruction received from the second insect, the honeybee, is that a mendicant sannyasi should not save the food he begs for the sake of having it later that night or the next day. Because if he does so, then just like the greedy honeybee, he will be destroyed along with his hoard. Interesting. Elephant, number 13. There's 24 spiritual masters. We're number 13. The male elephants are tricked by hunters into moving towards captive females. Elephants. Whereupon they fall into the hunter's ditch and are captured. Similarly, the man who becomes attached to the form of a woman falls down into the deep well of material life and is destroyed. A saintly person should avoid bodily contact with a woman, otherwise he will surely be captured by illusion. Nobody's exempt from this lust because it's so overpowering. Just as the elephant is captured by the she-elephant due to his desire to touch her body. Honey thief. The greedy man struggles to produce a large quantity of honey for family enjoyment. Honey is also meaning money. Honey is money, which is then stolen by someone who will enjoy it personally. No matter how carefully one hides his hard-earned wealth, there are those who are expert in detecting its whereabouts and steal it. Sannyasis and brahmacharis are entitled to take away the wealth of the laboring householders, just like a hunter, honey thief, takes away the honey laboriously produced by the honeybees. The deer, 15. A saintly person should never listen to songs or music promoting material enjoyment. Becoming attracted to the worldly, singing, dancing, and musical entertainment of beautiful women. Even the great sage Rishanga, the son of a deer, fell totally under their control, just like a pet animal. Rather, a saintly person should carefully study the example of the deer who is bewildered by the sweet music of the hunter's horn and thus is captivated and killed. So, the lesson to learn is not to be captivated by material enjoyment, material attractions. So, fish is the next one, number 16. Coming under the sway of attachment to the sense of taste and thus the desire to enjoy his tongue, the fish is caught on the baited fisherman's hook and destined to die. Similarly, an unintelligent person who is victimized by his insatiable tongue will also end up losing his life. By fasting, learned men quickly bring all of their senses except the tongue under control. Because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted by an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. Although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is able to understand, one is understood to be in full control of all of his senses. So this tongue is the first sort of very strong sense. And then it goes down, we have into the genitals, which is the next strong sense. But if one can control this tongue by speech, control our speech, control our sense of taste, wanting to eat nice things, beautiful, delicious things, then actually we will be in control, full control of all the senses, including the genitals. So, but if the tongue is not controlled, even if one thinks one is in control of his senses and his mind, he may not be, because this tongue, just one thing can take away all of our senses. And there's a Pushadam prayer, Sharira Vidya Jal Jogendriya Taika, describes the power of the tongue and why it's so important to control the tongue. Pingala, number 17. There was once a prostitute named Pingala in the city of Videha, and from her the Avadut learned that hopes for sense gratification are the root cause of all suffering. The story goes as follows. One day, Pingala dressed herself in very attractive clothing and ornaments and was waiting from sunset until midnight for a customer. She waited in great anticipation, but as time passed, her mind became very uneasy. No man came to see her. And in disgust, she finally became renounced, giving up her hankering from the arrival of a suitor. She felt a great detachment from her situation, cutting to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. And she sang as follows. So this is from a prostitute who didn't get a customer, but obviously a very intelligent prostitute. Just see how greatly illusioned I am. Because I cannot control my mind, just like a fool, I desire lusty pleasure from an insignificant man, having given up the service of that person who is actually most dear to me, the Supreme Lord. Although he is in my own heart, I have completely neglected him, instead serving those who simply brought me unhappiness. I have uselessly tormented my own soul. I have sold my body to lusty, greedy men, hoping to get money and sex pleasure. This material body, which is like a house, comprises of bones forming my spine, ribs, arms, legs are beams and pillars of the house. Arms and legs are beams and pillars of the house. The whole structure, which is full of stool and urine, is covered by skin, hair, and nails. So this is analyzing what we are living in, this body. And it's simply some material elements put together. And some of these elements are horrible. Stool and urine. The 9 doors leading into the body are constantly excreting foul substances. I have foolishly as to devote myself to this material body, thinking that I might find pleasure and love in this contraption. And this is our issue. We are thinking this material body is so beautiful. We want to live in it forever. But actually, it's made up of a whole lot of horrible things. I will now pay the price of complete surrender to the Supreme Lord, who is everyone's well-wisher, and thus purchase the Lord. All men and even the demigods in heaven have a beginning and an end. And so, how much actual happiness can they give to their wives? Right? Because at some point there will be something called death. Before that, of course, there's old age and disease. A person who undergoes great suffering gradually becomes out of hopelessness, detached and indifferent to the material world. Although I most stubbornly hoped to enjoy the material world, somehow or other, detachment has arisen in my heart, and it is making me very happy. Why? Because that frustration that was coming out of not being able to enjoy this material body has gone. That frustration is gone. So now this person is feeling happy, Pingala. Therefore, Vishnu must be satisfied with me, must be pleased with me, without ever knowing it. I must have performed some activity satisfying to him. Therefore, I am in fact fortunate and have received the mercy of the Lord. With devotion, I accept the great benefit that the Lord has bestowed upon me. Having given up my sinful desires for ordinary sense gratification, I now take shelter of Him. I am completely satisfied. Having full faith in the Lord's mercy, I will maintain myself with whatever comes of its own accord. Interesting. The intelligence of the living entity is stolen away by activities of sense gratification, and thus he falls into a dark well of material existence. Yeah, this is the enemy of the Lord, of the soul, right? The mind, lust, sense enjoyment. This is the enemies. Within that well, he is then seized by the deadly serpent of time. See, time stops for no one. And if we're not careful, our life will pass by very quickly. And what have we achieved? Not much. Who else but the Supreme Lord can save the poor living entity from such a hopeless condition? This is a fantastic realization, right? Only God can help us. When the living entity sees that the entire universe has been seized by the serpent of time, he becomes sober and sane, and at that time detaches himself from all material gratification. In that condition, the living entity is qualified to be his own protector. Of course, the Lord is the ultimate protector, and we can never shy away from taking his shelter. Very important. Even if we think that we are in control, we're actually not in control. At any time, anything can happen, which can completely devastate our existence. 1 minute we're in the body of a human being, next minute, who knows? Who knows? There's no guarantees. That's the only guarantee we can get is when we take shelter of the Lord. And then his protection is there, is guaranteed protection. Thereafter, Pingila, engaged herself in thinking only of the Supreme Lord, Hari, and her mind achieved the supreme platform of peace. This is a fantastic, really fantastic example for us to learn from. So, continuing on, detachment. The next chapter, number 9, detachment from all that is material. The Avadut Brahman describes his 7 remaining gurus. Beginning with the Kukurara bird, he also describes an additional guru, one's own body. So 25 gurus in total. The Kurara bird. Saintly Brahman said, everyone considers certain things within the material world to be most dear to him. And because of attachment, that's called attachment. Because of attachment to such things, one eventually becomes miserable. Why? Because that material thing will not satisfy us. Hence, misery. When a hawk carrying some meat was attacked by larger hawks, he gave it up out of fear for his life. Renouncing and saving himself, he felt more happiness than he did when he took the meat. The instruction received from the Kurara bird is that attachment creates misery. But the person who is unattached and has no material possessions is qualified to achieve unlimited happiness. So detachment might seem like a loss. We've lost something, but actually we've gained. We've gained ourselves. The child, the Avadut Brahman learned from the child who is free from all anxiety and merged in great happiness. That by becoming free from anxiety, a person becomes capable of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead and experiencing supreme ecstasy. In family life, the parents are always in anxiety about their home, children, reputation, etc. But the Avadut Brahman has nothing to do with these things and does not care about honor and dishonor. Thus, he enjoys only the soul, life of a soul, finds love on the spiritual platform. Thus, he wanders the world like a child. Child is very innocent, carefree. And I have that experience because when I go to the schools, I see the children. They're really open-minded. They're really very. Today was one of the most incredible dramas we did for mine. The character who played Hanuman, no more than 6 years old. He was phenomenal because we were describing what Hanuman did for Ramachandra. You know, he would cross Lanka by taking a leap, one leap, and he crosses the ocean. So this young fellow, he also did the leap, and he did skidded. You know, he did a leap like just like Hanuman. He did the leap, and then he skidded it, and then he did the Hanuman sort of. He's an English white boy. He was blonde hair. You know, he would have had a clue about Hanuman or anybody. But he really acted it out so well, so innocently, just out of a simple description of Hanuman. He actually played the role of Hanuman quite nicely. And then after he finished his skit, he was like bending. Yeah, he was bending like this with the club in his hand. It was a sight to be seen. It was so good. They did record it, and I asked them to send a recording, but of course, school they have some very strict rules, so I'm not expecting anything. But that was fantastic to see, and fantastic to experience that. I felt so happy after that, more happier than I normally feel, because the child was so spontaneous, you know. Anyway, the young girl, next one, number 20. The instruction received from the young girl who kept just one conch shell bracelet on each wrist is that one should remain alone and thus steady one's mind. If one is alone, one shouldn't think, I'm bored, I'm lonely. No, no. It's an opportunity to connect with the Lord. Such a wonderful opportunity. Then only will it be possible for one to fix one's mind completely on the personality of God. Once several men arrived to ask for the hand of the young girl whose relatives had coincidentally left the house. She went inside and began to prepare food for the unexpected guest by beating rice. At that time, her conch shell bracelets were making a loud noise, rattling against each other. And in order to stop this sound, she broke off the bracelets one by one, until at last only one remained on each arm. Just as two or more bracelets made noise, even two people residing in a same place, what to speak of many, there is every chance of mutual quarrel, useless gossip. Better to live alone. The arrow maker, number 21. The Avadut Brahman also received instruction from the arrow maker, who was so absorbed in constructing an arrow that he did not even notice that the king was passing right by him on the road. Completely focused. In the same way, one must strictly control one's mind. Focus, concentrating it in the worship of the Lord Shri Hari. One should carefully fix the mind on the single goal of yoga practice by detachment and the regulated practice. The mode of goodness increases in strength. One can completely give up the mode of passion and ignorance and gradually transcend even the material mode of goodness. A saintly person should remain alone and constantly travel without any fixed residence. Being alert, he should remain secluded, should act in such a way that he is not recognized or noticed by others. Moving without companions, he should not speak more than required. This is encouragement to us to focus. Whatever situation we find ourselves, we may have many people surrounding us. We have nobody. It doesn't matter. Focus is so important. The snake, he makes no home for himself, but takes over the homes of others, having eaten them. A sage should similarly make no endeavor for his own shelter. When a person living in a temporary material body tries to construct a happy home, the result is fruitless and miserable. So this is our condition, right? We are thinking we're happy, we've got a house, roof over our heads, but we've got to be so careful. The snake, however, enters a home that is built by others and prospers happily. 23, the spider. The instruction obtained from the spider who spins his web from his mouth and then withdraws it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead similarly creates from out of himself the whole universe and then winds it up into himself. Very interesting example. 24, the wasp. From the weak insect who assumes the same form as the wasp, the Avadut Brahman learned that the living entity under the sway of affection, hatred, and fear attains in his next life the identity of that object upon which he fixes his intelligence. The wasp trapped a weaker insect in his hive. Thus, this insect took on the mentality of a wasp out of intense fear of the wasp, thus became a wasp in his next life. This illustrates how one attains in the next life what one's mind is fixed on. So Krishna also says this: whatever you're thinking at the end of your life, that's what you're going to achieve. What the Avadut, seeing that the fragile material body is subject to birth and death, one who is sober should become devoid of material attachment to this body, should properly utilize the rare gift of human life in the pursuit of knowledge, endeavoring always for the achievement of the highest goal. So this is 24 gurus, and then the 25th, if you like, is this body of ours. We all know, right, that this body is very fragile, right? One little bug can knock it out for days, right? So why are we so proud of this body? No doubt it can help us, the Atma, to serve the Lord. But we have to also understand that it is the cause of a great deal of hurt and pain. So attachment to these bodies doesn't make sense unless it is attachment in the spiritual connection, that I can use my body to serve the Lord. And that's the ideal situation. We try to use this body, make great efforts to serve the Lord. Endeavoring for material things may not be fruitful, but endeavoring for spiritual things, that will become very fruitful. A man attached to the body accumulates money with great struggle to expand and protect the position of his wife, children, property, domestic animals, servants, homes, relatives, friends, and so on. He does all this for the gratification of his own body. As a tree before dying produces the seed of a future tree, the dying body manifests the seed of one's next material body in the form of one's accumulated karma. That's an interesting example. So the tree before dying produces seed for future tree, but we are also producing the future body by our karma. A man who has many wives is constantly harassed by them, pulling him in different directions due to their self-interest. Similarly, the material senses harass the conditioned soul, pulling him in different directions at once. On one side, the tongue is pulling him to arrange tasty food. Thirst drags him to drink a suitable drink. Sex organs clamor for satisfaction, and the sense of touch demands soft, sensuous objects. belly harasses him until it is filled. The ears demand to hear pleasing sounds. The sense of smell hankers for pleasant aromas. The fickle eye clamors for pleasing sights. So we are affected by all of those. It's good to know that this is where we are, being affected and infected, so that we can remain vigilant. The Lord kindly created human life, which offers a conditioned soul sufficient intelligence to perceive the absolute truth and become free. We can also perceive that we are being dragged under by trying to enjoy these different senses. After many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life as long as his body, which is subject to death, has not fallen down and died. Wow. Having learned from my spiritual masters, I remain situated in realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and fully renounce and enlightened by realized spiritual knowledge, wander the earth without attachment or false ego. Although the absolute truth is one without a second, the sages have described him in many different ways. Therefore, one may not be able to acquire very firm or complete knowledge from one spiritual master. So one spiritual master, we can have one Diksha Guru, but we can have lots of Shiksha Gurus, like this Avadut Brahman has described. We learn from everyone. And the thing we learn from the most, in my personal experience, is our mistakes. We can make the same mistake again and again, and we keep telling ourselves, I'm going to learn from it. Eventually, we will learn from it. So that's another guru, our mistakes, what we've done wrong. We can learn from that. Supreme Personality of God, it said. So this was Krishna. Krishna was talking to Uddhav. Having thus spoken to King Yadu, the wise Brahmin accepted obeisances from the king and worship from the king and felt pleased within himself. Then, bidding farewell, he left exactly as he had come. O Uddhav, hearing the words of the Avadut, the king, saintly King Yadu, who is the forefather of our ancestors, became free from all material attachment, and thus his mind was evenly fixed on spiritual platform. So this is just a summary of what we've just done. The 24 gurus. And if we take the body, 25 gurus. Okay, any questions? Any comments? Okay, we can stop there. Thank you everybody for joining today. Shri Srimad Bhagavad Puran ki jai.